the old environmentalism. Here's the new. If we want to solve climate, we have to solve energy at scale. And what we're going to do is look at, in this incredibly sensitive habitat, putting wind turbines up. Well, if we put wind turbines up there, here's the impact. And when we proposed this, this is the meteorological tower to measure the wind speeds. Turns out it doesn't work. But when we proposed it, we didn't get any pushback from the community. And this is a resort community. Because they recognize that we're going to have to hurt things and break things if we're going to solve this problem. It's not going to be easy. And it's a total reset. Again, so we have to start thinking, yeah, the building matters, the recycling matters, but what if the tissue in the building matters more in terms of leverage than what you did in the building? What if your big opportunity is this, not that? So here's this story. I'm at my office one day. I got a phone call. It's a group called Forest Ethics. And they say, hey, Auden, would Aspen Skiing Company, very high profile company, would you ban Kleenex? And I said, okay, why? Well, Kleenex is owned by Kimberly-Clark. Their forestry practices are bad. They're logging ancient forests, endangered forests, and we want you to join this boycott. Well, we looked into it. 700 other companies have banned Kleenex. It would cost us nothing to do it, and we only spend about $25,000 on Kleenex every year anyway. So we did it. And I get a lot of calls from the press. The press is typically bored. Hey, you got any stories on? And I said, yeah, I got a really cool story for you. We banned Kleenex. And the next day in the paper, we got completely eviscerated. There was a headline that said, save the planet, eat a boogie. Another headline, the issue with tissue. And one columnist destroyed us, saying, this is flagrant greenwashing. You do something that costs nothing, that takes no effort, and now you're claiming to be a big green hero. And another columnist said, well, you're flying people from Europe and then moving them up and down the hill and using coal-fired power, and you're telling Kimberly-Clark what to do? So it was a catastrophe, a press nightmare. And I actually had to go into the CEO's office and grovel and apologize. And I felt terrible, but it was horrendous. Well, about 2 weeks later, the phone rang. And on the phone was the CEO of Kimberly-Clark. Kimberly-Clark's a $32 billion corporation. It's bigger than half the countries in the world. Hey, what's up, CEO? You know, I want to send a team of senior managers down to talk to you, vice presidents, about this ban. Okay. Well, they came down, and we said, we want you to meet with environmental groups, we want you to incorporate post-consumer waste, and we want you to change your practices on forestry. 700 other companies did that, but they cared about Aspen in particular because we're so high profile. That's our big leverage. It's not greening our buildings, so we do that. It's influencing other businesses. If you've been following the news, Kimberly-Clark changed how its forestry practices are done radically in collaboration with Greenpeace. So you never would have said when you heard the ski resort Enviro guys coming up here that this is what is the most important thing we would do in that particular year. No one would have thought, and yet it was. It was the big leverage opportunity, and it was thinking differently about what matters and what doesn't. Another example. We run a 5-star hotel, a massive energy hog, the Little Nell. And if you ask the public, what should we do? They'd say, you know, you should put solar on the roof. It'll look great, and you'll be generating a lot of energy. Well, so we put solar on the roof, right up there, 5 kW. Now, most companies would say, we put solar on the roof, aren't we great? And you would say, no. 5 kW is about 0.1% of the total energy load. So you're greenwashing. You know the term greenwashing, environmental tokenism. So, and yet what's crazy is that company that put the 5 kW on the roof that doesn't matter at all is actually way more progressive than any business out there because it took time and energy and money and commitment. So even massive progress isn't even close to the challenge of zeroing out our carbon footprint. Now, how do you take this bad situation, 5-star hotel, probably shouldn't even exist in a carbon-constrained world, and solar panels on the roof, greenwashing? Here's what you do. You tie it to your most expensive room where people like George Soros stays, and Bill Clinton and others, and you have real-time energy monitoring showing how much is being produced and how much is being used, and you talk about climate. And so, we haven't quite gotten there. We have the real-time metering, we have the display in the room, but it's just a button on the computer. And my latest conversation is now it's got to be the homepage. So you run into the homepage, which is Protect Our Winters, which Murray, your son, has to check out. It's a mobilization of the snow sports industry, founded by legendary snowboarder Jeremy Jones. He'll love it. Now, again, we were working on our environmental footprint and trying to save energy, and we saved like 4% in our carbon footprint last year, and it was a massive battle and a huge fight, and half of it we weren't sure how we did, and we think we might not be able to achieve it next year. And we said, you know what, we got a problem. Because we can do all we want, but if we don't change how our power is created, we're not going to solve this either. So we looked into our utility and found out that our utility was a co-op, and that we could change the board of the utility. And over 4 years, we ran candidates and helped campaigns and worked to make the elections more public, and we flipped the board. And so now that's the kind of thing. But who would have thought that a ski resort person would be working on utility politics? So I'm gonna wrap up here with some thoughts on how you think about a problem as overwhelming and scary as climate change. Again, this is a terrifying slide. You see it, you really should, your response should be, hey, I'm going back to my hotel room, I'm getting in the closet, I'm going to order Chinese food, I'm going to hold my knees and rock back and forth with the lights off and drink a bottle of bourbon and have it delivered to me every 17 hours. How do you avoid giving up? I mean, it's an overwhelming challenge. I've always looked for inspiration wherever I can, and I've put quotes on my business card. So I hand you the card and you get a little inspiration. And the old quote I used to have was this guy, René Dubos. He's the guy, he's a French-American microbiologist, he's not alive anymore. He coined the phrase, think globally and act locally. And one thing he said that I thought was pretty profound is, trend is not destiny. So here's this idea that we're headed in this terrible direction, but we can turn the ship. But if you read any climate science, you know that trend is destiny. We have 1 degree, roughly, F, warming in the system. We have already warmed since the Industrial Revolution. We have another degree in the system. We can't prevent it. We're going to see at least 450 parts per million atmospheric CO2. We're going to see radical changes. So given that understanding of the science, I need a new mentor, a new model to inspire me. This is the great underground poet, bar fighter. You see he didn't do great in all his fights from his face. Alcoholic, postman, and poet, Charles Bukowski. Bukowski said, what matters most is how well you walk through the fire. I love that. Because what it's saying to you is how you engage a problem as big and scary and hard to solve, maybe impossible to solve as climate change, is you wake up every day like a Viking running into battle. You over-caffeinate yourself and you kick some ass. And that's the approach. That you're coming over the table at the problem. Because it really is, it's as if I said, you know, I'm wrapping up my talk and I have one last thing I want to do. Back here in the back room I've got Muhammad Ali from not today but 1970. And we have a little space here, actually it's about the size of a boxing ring. I'm going to randomly select someone from the audience and you're going to fight Muhammad Ali for us. It'll be so much fun for all of us watching. And you have two ways to answer that. One answer is, I have to go back and work on a pivot table on my Excel chart, so I can't fight him now. Bye-bye. But I put a gun to your head, and I say you got to fight him. This is climate change. You have an impossible to defeat, terrifying adversary. You got to fight him. This is the prettiest, fastest, meanest fighting machine the human species has ever seen. Muhammad Ali, 1970. So your other option is get up here. One option is cover up and let them pummel you into organ failure, and then we'll take you to any of your good trauma centers around here. You'll be fine. The other option, though, is to pretend you know how to fight. Now, engineers typically and architects are not fighters. But a few things you need to know. Keep your chin